Gentlemen, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome all of you to the 2021 European Union Human Rights Defenders Award ceremony. My name is Josephine Karunji and I will be hosting the event. We are live on NTV and we're also coming to you live online from the residence of the German ambassador. This is a small gathering to allow for the COVID-19 safety standard operating procedures. So I want to thank you all for coming out and listening into this event from wherever you might be. Allow me to recognize some of our guests present here this afternoon, ambassadors present, members of parliament. We're expecting some of them to join us, deputy ambassadors, the acting secretary of the Human Rights Commission, members of the civil society, last year's Human Rights Defenders Awardee, representatives from different public institutions, implementing organizations, and members of the media who are present. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Human Rights Defenders Award is presented annually to raise awareness of the work of human rights defenders in Uganda. The award recognizes and honors the achievements of an individual human rights defender who is active in Uganda, who has made an outstanding contribution to the promotion and protection of human rights in the past year. To start the event leading into this year's award, I would like to invite the EU Parliament Sakharov Fellow Prize Awardee 2016, Nicholas Opiyo. As he makes his way to the stage, Nicholas is a human rights lawyer and the team leader of the human rights organization Chapter for Uganda. He has worked tirelessly for many years now to defend civil liberties in Uganda, often for free, and on behalf of society's most vulnerable and marginalized. Nicholas, I will continue to speak until you reach here. So I'll prolong your profile, if you allow me to. Nicholas had quite an interesting end to the year 2020, and I suspect that events such as those he has experienced in his line of service are the reason as to why we are here. And I could not think of anybody else better to start our ceremony. Nicholas, over to you.
Relatives, friends, and in-laws, good afternoon. Normally, the host speaks first. So let me just clarify, this is not my home. This beautiful house is not mine. I'm a guest like all of you, but good afternoon. I was very surprised when I was asked to make a few remarks at the beginning of this function. Nominee. I'm not a member of the diplomatic community or a member of parliament. Neither do I work for the Human Rights Commission or any public institution in this country. But nonetheless, I agreed to do it because I wanted to use the opportunity to make three very important points. The first is the role of human rights defenders in a democratic process. Far too many times, we've heard public narratives naming civil society organization actors, human rights defenders, as agents of foreign power, as saboteurs of economic development. But nothing could be further from the truth, because inherently, human rights defenders are first Ugandans and members of this community who care deeply about this country in much the same way as anybody else. We might differ on how to attain a peaceful, prosperous country, on the means to get there, on the ways to get there, but we are all Ugandans who love this country dearly. Members of the human rights community and human rights defenders help the vulnerable throughout this country. In so many ways, human rights defenders ameliorate shortages in this access to justice by state actors. As you may have heard, I was a prisoner myself at the end of last year. I had the privilege of spending Christmas and having a free Christmas meal in prison and talking to so many Ugandans who are in prison. So many of them would never have had justice access to courts but for human rights defenders. Human rights defenders make a huge economic contribution to this country through their work, through their resources, and through the organizations that they run, and therefore are important actors in the development of our country. Secondly, there have also been allegations that human rights defenders receive money from foreign governments for no good purpose. Again, this could never be further from the truth. From where I stand, human rights defenders, like anybody else in this country, benefit from the movement of global capital, from the global north to the global south, in the same way as businesses, banks, and other people in this country. The fact that people receive money from foreign actors is in no way a demonstration of the fact that they are agents of foreign power. Rather, these are Ugandans who are well-meaning, who want a good country and are seeking and using all their ways and means to make this country better. There's no perfect demonstration of this role than the award that we are going to receive this afternoon to recognize the importance of the work of human rights defenders. These human rights defenders sacrifice their lives, their effort and resources to work with vulnerable communities throughout this country. They are selected from a group of very hard-working and well-meaning men and women of this country. This award celebrates these human rights defenders and the tremendous work that they do every single day, most times at great risk and at great cost. So as we celebrate this day, let's use it as an occasion to remind ourselves that human rights defenders are incredible, important actors in any democratic process. They occupy the space between the state and the citizenry. They are the vanguard for innovation in so many ways. Many government programs benefit from the innovative ideas that human rights defenders every day churn out. In fact, human rights defenders help government to monitor, for example, government programs, to fight corruption, to fight abuse of power, to restrain those who would want to use their offices in public office to abuse procedures, processes. And as a result, this country is better off because of the effort, among others, of human rights defenders. So I wish to congratulate the nominees and wish all of them the very best, and may the best person take the day. Good afternoon, and thank you for the invite. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Nicholas Opiyo. We wait for more stories of your time in prison. I think stories like that will energize more human rights defenders, to continue doing the work that they're doing. Well, thank you very much, Nicholas. I'm going to call next the Ambassador of the EU, His Excellency Ambassador Attilio Patifici, to come and speak to us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Our Human Rights Defenders Award nominees, the Acting Secretary of the Human Rights Commission, our host, His Excellency, the Ambassador of Germany, and other ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen present here today, and those following us on the television and TV, good afternoon again to everyone. Let me start by thanking Nicholas Opiyo, not just for his inspiring words, but even more so for his inspiring actions, as well as his dedication and commitment in defense of human rights, civil liberties, and civic space in Uganda. I'm grateful that Uganda's rebellious right lawyer, as Nicholas has been presented in some articles in the press, has accepted to be here with us today. And I'm proud to say that in few occasions, the European Union delegation in Uganda has been able to concretely support his work. We will keep doing so. We will keep doing so as long as the circumstances will require. It is a pleasure to be here once again for the annual European Union Human Rights Defenders Award, which is presented by the European Union delegation and the embassies of the European Union member states in Uganda, as well as the embassy of Norway. This is my fourth here attending this award ceremony, which is a strong reminder to all of us of the huge contribution made to this society by human rights defenders. Actually, 2021 marks the 10th year in a row that we present the Human Rights Defenders Award in Uganda. The award was for the first time presented in 2012 with the aim of raising awareness of the work being done by the human rights defenders and as a way of celebrating and recognizing their courage and determination, often in very, very difficult circumstances. The award is given for significant contributions to human rights provided in the year before, in the past year, and seeks to give increased visibility to human rights defenders who, despite the important work they do, very often are not well known. Let me profit of this opportunity to remind ourselves that what a human rights defender, according to the European Union, is. The European Union guidelines on the human rights defenders provide a very broad definition, including individuals, groups and organs of society seeking the promotion and protection of civil and political rights, as well as the promotion, protection, and realization of economic, social, and cultural rights. Human rights defenders also promote and protect the rights of members of minority groups. The work of human rights defenders is wide-ranging. It includes documenting violations, seeking remedies for victims, the provision of legal, psychological, medical, and other support, as well as combating culture of impunity, which serve to screen systematic and repeated breaches of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Since 2012, the Human Rights Defender Award has recognized human rights defenders working in many, many areas in Uganda, including areas such as the freedom of expression, child protection, women's rights, the rights of disabled people, and environmental rights. Last year, the award was given to Mr. Aimé Moniga for his outstanding contribution to advancing the rights of male survivors of sexual violence in conflict. I thought he was going to be here, but I haven't seen him. Oh, you're there. Okay. Aimé, you're welcome. And thank you very much for being with us again this year. The women and men recognized through this award over the past decade embody the spirit of human rights. They show us what is possible when we apply the basic tenets of human rights and universal values of dignity, fairness, equality, and respect in our everyday lives. These leading human rights defenders demonstrate that these values are not just words and which sound nice in a speech, but they have a real life, and they have a real life meaning and can have a transformative impact on people's life. These universal rights are inherent to all of us, regardless of nationality, gender, national ethnic group, color, religion, language, and any other status. Upholding these rights means for us, for example, that each citizen can live in security under rule of law, that children, women, and minority groups can live free from violence and discrimination and can fully contribute to society, that our vital natural resources can be better protected. Human rights are also good for business, and I would like to laud and praise Uganda for being the second country, probably out of two only, which is important, in Africa, in the continent, in Africa, with a national plan, a national action plan on business and human rights in the pipeline. We will be very interested in following its implementation. Fundamentally, in short, respect for human rights underpins sustainable peace and development in any society. Having lived in this beautiful country for a number of years, I think 7 or 8 so far, it is clear to me that these values are shared by both Europeans and Ugandans. Nonetheless, as we have heard from Mr. Opiyo just now, human rights challenges exist, and these challenges cannot and should not be ignored. There is still a way to go, a long way perhaps to go, to ensure that everyone in this country has their human rights respected, protected, and fulfilled, regardless of their age, ethnicity, gender, and political affiliation. Let me use this chance to renew our appeal to everyone in Uganda, including the security services, to make a greater effort to respect human rights and to avoid extremely unfortunate incidents that have no place in a democratic society. Unlawful killings, abductions, the beating of journalists are not the marks of a Uganda that we would all wish to see in future, and the European Union will not shy away from difficult conversations on these matters. In the spirit of a genuine partnership of equals, we are ready to have a dialogue and to work with everyone in this country to chart a pathway to a situation of greater respect of human rights and to a brighter future for all Ugandans. And let me say that I say this with a full understanding and a full acknowledgement that we in the European Union have also a lot of work to do to uphold human rights at home in our own countries. The valuable work done by human rights defenders is needed as much as in our continent as it is here. And they have to act as watchdogs, as whistleblowers, and to assure, and that is one of the key targets, objectives, and scope of their being, to ensure that all governments live up to their commitments with their vis-à-vis their citizens. I also want to take this opportunity to salute all human rights defenders in Uganda for the work they do, for their courage and for their dedication to advancing the cause of human rights. This year, I'm happy to report that the response to our call for nominations for the awards was stronger than ever before. We received well 100 nominations for this award, and the standard of people nominated was again very, very high. It was a very difficult process for our teams to narrow down these to just 3 people who are here with us today. We will hear more about their work from the Ambassador of Germany in just a few minutes. And for now, just allow me to congratulate them and to mention their names, the names of the 3 shortlisted. Rita Achiro Lakor, Rosemary Namboze, Moses Mulumba. They are here, and I want to congratulate them for having made it so far. A great achievement indeed. In conclusion, and I'm very, very close to stop my long talks, let me reaffirm the European Union's continued strong commitment to human rights and support to human rights defenders in Uganda, as well as our commitment to deepen and to upgrade our dialogue and engagement. This will include, among other actions, efforts to encourage the government of Uganda to invite His Excellency Eamon Gilmore, former Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ireland, and currently the European Union Special Representative for Human Rights, to visit Uganda. I'm sure he will be delighted, and I'm sure there is a lot that we can learn from each other and work better together with this visit. I will now hand over to the Ambassador of Germany, who will say a few words about each of the nominees before the decision of this year's award is announced. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Attilio. Good afternoon and welcome, everybody, to the German residence. Let me particularly recognize the presence of our Human Rights Defenders Award nominees, the representatives of civil society organizations, my fellow ambassadors and members of the diplomatic corps, and members of the media, of course, and everybody who is following us right now on TV. I've been really looking forward to this afternoon and to introducing our nominees to you. But before I do that, bear with me for just 2 minutes to briefly reflect on the topic of human rights. Discussions on human rights started a long time ago, actually in ancient Greece. At that time, there was a dispute. What are they based on? Is it something called natural law? Is it reason? Or is it that human beings were created by gods? These questions are still controversial, but actually they're not so important. What is important, and what we all agree on, is that human rights are universal. Whether it is in the jungle of Brazil, in the Sahara Desert, or in the Himalayan mountains, in Washington, Berlin, Moscow, Beijing, Kampala, or Kathmandu, everybody agrees that it is, for example, not permissible, not acceptable to imprison somebody who has done nothing wrong. So, in the last centuries, we humans have come up with lots of documents to try and specify what human rights are and what they are not. Multilateral documents from the United Nations, African Union, East African Community, but also many, many constitutions. Uganda's constitution states in Article 20, and I quote, "The fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual are inherent and not granted by the state." Another word for that is inalienable. That means these rights cannot be revoked by any government. They are not at the disposal of those who happen to be in power to be granted or taken away. To give some examples specifically of human rights, again, I quote the Chapter 4 of the Constitution of Uganda. It mentions life, personal liberty, protection from inhumane treatment, protection of your home and property, right to a fair and speedy hearing, and freedom of expressions. Fortunately, many, many constitutions in the world have similar provisions. So, if we all agree that human rights are universal and inalienable, what are we doing here this afternoon? Why do we need a Human Rights Defenders Award? The sad reality is, and it has already been mentioned, that human rights need to be defended all over the world. And human rights defenders have a hard time in very many countries. I wonder what the reason is. I imagine it is because for many rulers, the love of power is even greater than the love of their people, whom they often claim to serve. As soon as they feel threatened by people peacefully disagreeing and challenging them, they prefer to throw the human rights and their constitutional principles overboard and tighten the grip on power. Fortunately, all over the world, and especially in Uganda, there have always people with courage and determination who will speak out for human rights despite being threatened, harassed, abused, imprisoned, tortured, and even killed. And fortunately, we also have very committed people who overcome many obstacles, both in government and in society, to speak out for disadvantaged groups and support them, often making great personal sacrifices. Incidentally, we hope very much that in the wake of forming a new Ugandan government next month, the long-standing vacant chair of the Ugandan Human Rights Commission will finally be filled again. But coming back to the award, our human rights advisors, until you mentioned it, have already received 97 eligible nominations and have put in a great amount of time and effort to narrow down them to a short list and eventually 3 candidates. Thank you very much for that, colleagues. And now it is my pleasure to present the 3 nominees in the alphabetical order of their last names. Ms. Rita Achiro Lako is Executive Director of Uganda Women's Network, UWONET, and has been at the forefront of advocacy and campaigning on the rights of women and girls for almost 20 years. Ms. Achiro is passionate about uplifting the status of women and girls and providing equal opportunities in all aspects of their lives. She has worked extensively with communities and governments in Uganda and East Africa on a wide range of issues, including the role of girls and women in leadership, we need a lot more, women's land rights, combating gender-based violence, women in peace building, as well as civic and voter education and election observation. Next is Mr. Moses Mulumba. He is the Executive Director of the Center for Health, Human Rights and Development, CHEHRD, a non-profit focusing on sexual and reproductive health rights and medical ethics which affect vulnerable people. In August 2020, Mr. Mulumba helped to win a landmark constitutional petition in which the court found that the failure to provide basic material health care violated the right of health guaranteed in Uganda's constitution. During the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, Mr. Mulumba was a strong advocate for equitable access to COVID-related information and services. Third is Ms. Rosemary Nambuze, the founder and director of Angels Center for Children with Special Needs in Wakiso. after her second son, who is fortunately with us here this afternoon, was born with Down syndrome and an intellectual disability, Ms. Nambuza became aware of the lack of services and facilities in Uganda for children with disabilities. She established the Angel Center in 2012 to provide vital services to children with intellectual disabilities and their families. Ms. Nambuza also worked to combat the practice of so-called mercy killings of disabled people and to scale up community-based psychosocial support during the COVID-19 pandemic. Last week, my colleagues, most of them present here, and I had a tough decision to make. Which of these outstanding candidates would win the award this year? Let me tell you, quite a few arguments were exchanged, and the decision was by no means unanimous. All of them really deserve the award, but only one can be the winner. So, to make it short, I am happy to present this year's European Human Rights Defenders Award to Ms. Rita Achiro Lakor. Congratulations. Rita, please come up here and join me. Congratulations once again. Okay, pictures taken. Thank you, Andrew. Let us see. All right. Maybe a little closer. Nope. Okay. Maybe a bit steep. Okay, what we could do is lower this. Tighten this. Will this work?
I'm shy. Okay, I have to get going. Your Excellencies, the European Union Ambassador to Uganda, our host, the German Ambassador to Uganda, all the European Union delegation ambassadors to Uganda, honorable ministers and members of parliament here present, government representatives, development partners, my colleagues from civil society, fellow countrymen and countrywomen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I stand here today exceedingly humbled. I'm humbled to have been nominated, and as you've heard, over 100, almost 100 entries, and eventually being announced as the winner for the EU Human Rights Defenders Award for 2021. I would like to thank all you, the countrywomen and the countrymen who nominated me, and thanking the European Union delegation in Uganda for finding me deserving. Allow me to take this opportunity to thank my two colleagues who have made it this far, Moses and Rosemary. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here, we are here, especially as women and girls, because someone, someday, somewhere, stood up for us to have a better life. I stand here, I stand on the shoulders of the women who came before me, who stood up for the rights of women and girls, and for humanity in general. Defending human rights is not and should not be a job, but rather driven by passion and compassion, and indeed, it should be our way of life. While today we have this award ceremony, I know for sure there are many more people out there who on a daily basis are standing and speaking up in defense of human rights, each probably from different angles and from different perspectives, as you've heard from the ambassador. I just want to say, none of these efforts is less than the other. I take the opportunity to acknowledge the efforts of everyone in making the world a better place, and a better place for women and girls. I will always emphasize that. As women and girls' rights advocates and defenders, many times we are challenged for having overstepped our boundaries of culture, tradition, religion, by advancing the rights of women and girls. And in fact, many times, the abuse for women and girls especially are tolerated and least appreciated. As human rights defenders, we find this challenging, despite the fact that as a country, we have enormous laws that protect our people, we have enormous laws that protect the rights of women and girls, but these abuses still continue to happen. And again, as mentioned by the ambassador, all these rights are clearly stipulated in our own constitution when you go to chapter 4. I want to say, it was once stated by the former First Lady, the New York Senator, and the Secretaries of State of the United States of America, Hillary Clinton, that women's rights are human rights, and human rights are women's rights. The benefits of promoting and protecting human rights, especially for women and girls, without doubt, yields dividends at the family, at community, and at the national level, international level. And for us to be able to achieve our development goals at personal, community, national, and international level, for example, the SDG 5 and SDG 10 on gender equality and reduced inequality, it is my sincere hope that we all invest in protecting and promoting the rights of our people and those of women and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor today to receive this award on behalf of what I call the invisible human rights and women's rights defenders in our homes, in our communities, in our public spaces, who may never have the opportunity, the platform, the spotlight, the stage, yet doing incredible work and giving voice to humanity, women, girls, boys, and men. Indeed, we can each start within our spheres of influence, in homes, in communities, in public spaces. We need a dignified life for our people, and a dignified life for all of us requires all our efforts. And that should be our aspiration for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Rita. And congratulations to you. I am used to you being a fireball. It is very strange to see you close to tears. This is quite a bit of work that you're doing. I've been fortunate enough to interact with Rita and the other two nominees, to speak to them on TV shows and to see for myself the work that they're doing. And I think we should give them a chance to come and speak to us, even briefly, about what this award means to them, what this nomination means to them, and also about the work that they're doing. So I'm going to ask Moses if you'll come first, and Rosemary, you can come after. We're just going in alphabetical order as well. So Moses, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I can't be any happier than I am for my colleague, Rita. Rita, congratulations. I think I will say 2-3 things. First, this year's nomination was very humbling for me. It was very surprising for me. And very surprising because we are talking about areas of women and areas of maternal health which have always found it very difficult to find a place within the main human rights framework. As a person that writes grants, as a person that does work, the most complicated thing to do is to respond to an EU grant that is talking about human rights, and you are a person working on maternal health. And it's not just the EU grant, but practice everywhere. Human rights has always been civil political rights and less on socioeconomic rights. So Rita, I am so happy, congratulations. But the second point for me is, I think it's very exciting to see a woman receive the award. That I have worked for years, and I keep talking about women issues, and I think she's much more deserved to receive the award, because I had no idea I had a nomination anywhere, and I am being nominated over women issues. So I think for me, Rita, you are in a very, very good place. And then lastly, I want to thank the European Union. I want to thank the human rights defenders for recognizing the importance of human rights. Human rights are about dignity. If we talk about dignity, it's sometimes very difficult to understand what dignity is in a poverty environment where almost half of the population doesn't receive the dignity that they have to be receiving. So the European Union, I am so happy, and I congratulate you for leading this process. And then lastly, for me, the people that I have worked with for the last 15 years of my practice, the nomination was not mine. The nomination was the team, incredible team of people that have left at the Center for Health, Human Rights and Development, that have litigated, that have challenged government, that have challenged all the stakeholders that have to make sure that women receive what they are entitled to. So I thank you very much, and I congratulate Rita once again. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Your Excellency, the Ambassador of the European Union, the different diplomats in this place, ladies and gentlemen, and in a very special way, our self-advocate in the House, none other than Abril Niwagaba. First and foremost, I'm deeply humbled to be shortlisted among the 3 nominees. Congratulations, Rita. I've been admiring you from a distance. Your work is very valuable. Moses, I've been longing to have an appointment with you, but finally God has brought it at the right time. My journey started way back of being a human rights advocacy when we got our second born, Abril. The diagnosis changed our lives as a family. When the doctors told us that Abril had a condition called Down syndrome, first and foremost, in my position as being a mother, the first question was, how are we going to raise him? Where is he going to get the services he needs? What kind of a country are we in right now that is able to provide the education, the healthcare, and so on? And at a hospital bed, pondering, wondering what would be next, Angel Center for Children with Special Needs was formed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a voice of simply an ordinary woman, a mother, who one day woke up and had dreams of this wonderful family she thought she would have. And all of a sudden, something changed everything about the expected family. This afternoon, before you, is our son Abril Niwagaba and my husband. Your Excellence, before I recognize any other people, first of all, I want to recognize my husband for being a different man. Even when culture says a child belongs to a woman, and he stood all odds to stand with me, to move all that journey. Today, I want to actually, this nomination belongs to him and Abril. And I also want to say a few words. When we started this journey of raising him, we just realized it was very difficult to find the education he needed, to find the health care he needed. Abril was born with quite a number of complications.
Mommy.
Yes.
Said as Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
As Sarah.
Okay.
And me. I said as Sarah. And we
This is life we have. It breaks all the diplomacy. I'm sorry, but this is the daily life we live in. He's given the opportunity to talk, and that's how our parenting journey is. I was never trained to be a mother of a child with special needs. There was no any direction, but along the way, we are managing.
Mommy.
I want to recognize all the families and caregivers who are raising children with disability. This has been one of the strongest journey, and to break through all protocol, odds, stereotypes, cultural taboos, to stand here before you, it has been a tough journey. I want to thank European Union for organizing such a wonderful award. The recognition goes to our government. This is the time. I strongly say and believe that working with disability should not be looked at as a charity model, but it's a human rights-based approach, meaning that Abril has a right to education. It should not be charity. I should not be begging our government to provide education. It is their right. It is their right to have education. It is their right to have access to health care, and it's their right to be included in society. And this is what I stand for. Inclusion, even at community level. Society has judged us. People have different opinion on how to raise children with intellectual disability. Today, to rise up in power, I'm so indebted by people who have nominated, people who have believed in me, to raise me up each day, to wake up to someone I need to create a voice for. It has been a journey. I want to thank you. I know I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I want to thank each and everyone who nominated me. Thank you so much, European Union, for stepping up, giving me the opportunity to step up. My parents, I know, Angel Center, the children, the parents are out there watching. You are the most important thing that has ever happened to me. I'm happy to serve you. And by the way, Your Excellence, I'm a Rotarian. And Rotary believes in the values of serving humanity. So I want to send our regards to the Rotary Club of Wakiso. Thank you for grooming me into a woman who is a leader. Thank you so much.
Mommy. Outside I saw you up, yes, and I'm not in good shape. The answer I said bad, I said bad. I said you're easy.
The microphone. Thank you so much.
I said you were right.
Thank you very much, Abril. And thank you very much for speaking to us. And just to say that the life that you all live, the path that you have chosen, few of us are willing to do. So we acknowledge your sacrifice and we thank you for it. I'm going to ask the media. We'd like to take a few questions to our ambassadors, to any of the nominees, to our winner. If you have any question that you would like to put to them, now is a good time to do it. We have a few minutes before our live session ends, just to remind us all that we are live on NTV, and they will respond to any of the questions that you might have. So you tell us your name and your media house, and then you proceed with the question. There's a microphone right there at the back, so that the person responding can come to the podium.
My name is Eddie Sejewa from the New Vision. I'm going to read my question.
Eddie, do you mind holding the microphone closer?
Yes, I'm going to read my question. Congratulations to Rita. So after the award, how are you prepared to continue pushing for human rights, defending human rights in Uganda, given the recurrence of abuses, especially involving journalists, including female journalists? This can as well go to the European Union and other ambassadors. We are all concerned, the media fraternity, that abuses against members of the media are continuing, and maybe you can help us to push for this. Thank you.
All right, just a recap for the question. Should I recap? His question was, first of all, to Rita, after the award, what is the way forward now that you've gotten it? And also to the ambassadors, the media, the human rights abuses against them continue. Are you going to do anything about it? So Rita?
After the award, what happens? I want to believe you heard that I have been working in this area for 20 years and the award just came today. So that means work continues. But it also shows that the work of human rights defenders are recognized. I've not met any of the people who nominated me. When I'm in the communities, in the villages, working with women, the award is not at the back of my mind. So this is just to say that we'll continue working and doing what is right for everybody, especially women and girls, to live a dignified life. Thank you.
I will say something very, very briefly. It is something that we have been having in mind as a EU team, as a EU group of European Union ambassadors, is to have a regular engagement with the press to discuss all kinds of issues, including this one. This is a very important one, and the commitment I would like to make is to implement this wish, this vision that we have together long ago actually shaped, and we have not been able to make it happen the way we want it. So the commitment is to meet regularly with the press to discuss all these kind of issues, including violence, which obviously we know, we see it happening every day. Not only that, also the way issues and questions are reported, some of them sometimes not properly, the importance of investigative journalism, all these issues I would like to confirm and to say that this is the kind of thing we haven't done well, we haven't done it to the extent we wanted, and we will be doing. So there will be plenty of opportunity to follow up on this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If I may just briefly add, we, the European Union, also meet with other countries, the UK, the US, Norway, Iceland, Japan, Korea, in a different format called Partners on Democracy and Good Governance. And it is the Danish ambassador, who I think was here just a moment ago, who is the chair, and it is at his residence that I met quite a lot of journalists and representatives of the media, and we will continue this exchange. And I think the goal must be to change the attitude, to change the mentality of some people in power. We have some people who realize that the media are our partners, also the partners of the government, as Nicholas Opiyo said, that they help to keep things in balance, but other people consider them as enemies, and our goal should be to change this mentality and to work together. We had an encouraging sign of this sort of reconciliatory football match between the journalists and the military. I hope we will continue down that road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's another question.
Thank you. The EU ambassador, the Swedish ambassador, the French ambassador, the German ambassador are hosts. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Okay, hello, can you hear me? Well, thank you, EU ambassador, for entrusting NTV Uganda with this event. And I bring you feedback from the government officials you are probably calling aboard, and our viewers at large. One question has always come up as we publicize or run promos to this event. What criteria is followed to reach to this event? So our viewers would love to be involved from go one. What happens? By the time we come to Rita as the winner, what do we consider? How do we come to these winners? What is this whole event about? They need to know that. Thank you.
That's a very loaded question. Thank you, Adela. So how do you come to the nominees, the three that we have, and finally to the winner?
Good afternoon, everybody. My ambassador has just put me on the spot, so apologies if I come across as a little bit unprepared. The question is a good one. We followed the same process as we do every year. In February, we issue a call for nominations. Anybody can nominate a human rights defender. We send that out as widely as we can through the media, through social media, through our website. And I think, as both of the ambassadors said, this year we received well over 100 nominations. Not all of them were eligible, but we had just under 100 eligible nominations according to our criteria. So that has to be that you are politically non-aligned, that you are not involved in any kind of association with violence, and that you are promoting human rights on behalf of a group or on behalf of other people. And according to those very basic criteria, we had a lot of very strong nominees, men and women from across the country working on a whole range of human rights. And we, as a European Union delegation and our member states, we shortlisted 3 candidates that you've seen here today and chose the winner on that basis. So it's a very open process. The criteria are on our website for anybody that wants to take a look. And we look forward to next year's award and to many more years of celebrating the many great human rights defenders that this country has. Thank you. My ambassador is inviting me to share details of the fight amongst ambassadors, but I'm too clever to fall for that trap, so I'll politely decline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to take one more question, and Nicholas, I'll pose this question to you. We know that human rights from the look of it, they seem to have been increasingly better defined in recent years in international, regional, and national legal systems. But then we continue to see the crackdown on civil society organizations, on the media, as the journalists have said. And when you take away resources from the defenders or limit these resources, you clearly limit the work of these groups. How do we ensure the continuity of the work of the human rights defenders?
Well, thank you, Josephine, for putting me on the spot. I never thought I would get a question. How do we ensure the continuity of the work of human rights defenders? First and foremost, we must underscore the fact that rights are always under threat and that we must wake up every day to defend them as a duty for every citizen in this country. Because rights are not handed to us on a golden plate, especially for those who are in power. There's always a push and pull factor between those who want to retain power, abuse discretion, and those who are defending it. So the duty of fighting human rights is not a preserve of NGOs, of the media, of human rights defenders. It's everybody's duty. And we must, regardless of resources, be able to wake up every day to fight human rights violations. But secondly, that we must educate ourselves on what these rights are. You'll be surprised that incredible number of people in this country have no idea about what their rights are. They perceive rights to be privileges from the state. And so if you don't know your rights, you can't defend them. So we must educate ourselves every day on what rights are. Sometimes we take it for granted, but these things cannot be taken for granted. The third one is the question of resources. Some of this work requires resources. Limiting access to resources, freezing bank accounts of human rights defenders on baseless and proven allegations are actions that undermine the work of human rights defenders. And I think all of us must repudiate these kind of actions and push back and say, human rights defenders are a critical actor in a democratic process. They have a right to access resources, just like companies access resources from foreign capital, just like government access resources from foreign capitals. Human rights defenders must be allowed as a matter of right to access resources. We must encourage domestic philanthropy as well, that all of us must get involved in supporting the work of human rights defenders, either with our time, with our expertise, or with resources. Because sometimes funding from outside the country can dry up, but if we own this, we are part of this movement and look at this as an important work in our country, we can be able to sustain it and make sure that human rights work continues, regardless of resources from outside or not. And lastly, if violations occur, instead of playing football with fat-bellied UPDF soldiers, we must document and hold them to account. Because playing football is not the answer to human rights violations, to the violations of rights of journalists. We must document these violations, identify abusers, hold them to account legally, hold them to account socially. I don't want to play a football match with a tormentor. I think that we must hold them to account and sue them and take them to court, make them outcasts in our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Rita, I don't want you to go off very quickly, so I'll bring you back to the podium and ask you one more question. We've been given a few more minutes. So my question to you is, how do we ensure, and you're speaking for just about all the other defenders, how do we ensure that rights are not deliberately realized at the cost of others? Say, health programs are not compromised at the cost of debt servicing or funding security or something else. How do we do that?
Josephine, you've asked me a question taking me into the finance arena and how decision is made in terms of resource allocation. How do we ensure that other important rights are not overtaken by human rights, right? I think as a country, we've seen and we've heard we're having challenges in terms of resources, but also this is a global issue right now. Corona, we blame Corona for everything. It goes back to our resource base, first and foremost, how we utilize the resources available, how we prioritize, but most importantly, how active citizens are. Because as it was said, the rights are not given to you on a silver platter. You have to claim for it. You have to stand up and say, we need part of the cake. And active citizenry is one of the ways how we will be able to balance all these rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. And I'll pose this last question to our ambassadors. Any of them can take it. When we hear people speak about the human rights defenders, maybe there's no correlation that's actively given with what human rights defenders do and the stability of the economy or economic growth. So my question to you, I'm not sure who is going to come up for it, but I'm going to pose it anyway. And it is, what value does a human rights-based approach add to the development of a country?
I think you can write a book to answer that question. I'll try to be brief. As I said earlier, human rights are absolutely fundamental. They are inherent. They are inalienable. If a government is not clear on its human rights approach, if it raises doubts whether human rights play a strong role, as a businessman who is thinking of investing in this country, I'm not exactly encouraged. If people are put in prison for making critical remarks, what should stop the government from taking my factory if they don't, if I fall out of favor with them? I think it was Attilio who said human rights are good for business. Why? Because they create trust. People feel that they are not at the mercy of an arbitrary administration, but that rules are being followed, and if someone tries to take something away from them, they have a legal system that they can appeal to, and in a country where human rights have no value, this is not the case. So as a businessman, I would take my investment elsewhere.
Thank you very much for your candid response. Thank you very much for your candid response, Nicholas, and also to you, Rita. We've come to the end of our live broadcast of this particular event. So once again, I want to thank all of the people who have tuned in from wherever you are, watching us on TV, but watching us online. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to once again congratulate the nominees and also the winner of this year's European Union Human Rights Defenders Award. The work that each of the nominees does is extremely important, and it cannot be underscored. I think that's what we've taken from all the speakers tonight. And I hope that ceremonies like this are an extra push for other defenders out there to know that their work is appreciated and it is very much needed. Thank you once again to the audience at home and to all of you that are in this space. Thank you for coming to this event. And once again, Rita, and all the nominees, we thank you. We thank you for the work that you put in. And we've come to the end of the live event. We are offline now, and we can enjoy the rest of the evening.